Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you're watching another live Q&A with you and me. I do 5 of these every single weekday, and 4 of them are exclusive to my patrons. 1 of them is for everybody. And so if you want even more of me and my answers and my advice to the questions that you might have, most likely in relation to technology, then you definitely want to become a patron. It's easy to do, and you get all the backlog of content, over 100 exclusive videos, and I would say at a pretty affordable rate, personally, because my time is worth something, as is everybody. So I'm very happy to spend this time with you, and I'm very, very grateful that you are spending this time with me. Today's question: why are gadgets not worth collecting? You know, this is a funny thing. I like gadgets. I genuinely do. But last year, as I've done every year for the past few years, I did the home office tour. This is now my workshop, named after what my grandfather used to have, because I'm not like my grandfather in every way, but he had a workshop, and I just think that's a little more inviting than home office. Home office sounds so boring. For years, I was surrounded with gadgetry and gizmos, and all they were doing were collecting dust. I mean, they kind of worked-ish, and most of them had become outmoded. And I realized, these things aren't really worth anything. I mean, they're worth something for what they do, but they're not really worth anything, and I don't really feel inspired when I look around and see things that don't work as well as they used to, or maybe didn't even work as well when I got them in the first place. It's just that they were the best things that I could possibly get, like a robot, which was kind of neat, back when robots really didn't do a lot. And so now, today's little miniaturized toy robots could do a lot more. And so looking at this somewhat old robot was interesting, but at the same time, I didn't feel an emotional connection with that product. I've never really felt a lot of emotional connections with my gadgets. I feel a sense of nostalgia when I talk about some of the first gadgets I've ever had. I think that's a question I'm going to be answering in a future Q&A with you and me. Gadgets lose their value pretty quickly. Apart from the nostalgic value, that personal value that you might have, some people want to hold on to every single iPhone that had been produced. Hey, knock yourself out. If that's what you want to collect, that's fine. I can tell you that some of my older iPhones did not fare very well. The battery, basically exploded, and it just was worthless. It was worthless. And that's the problem with electronics, is that once they've outlived their usefulness, they become worthless. Which does not mean that they're not valuable. They are, obviously, because they cost money. But the reason that you would get a gadget or a gizmo or an electronic or a computer, whatever, is likely because you're going to do something with it. More than likely, that's the case. And the nice thing about that is you will upgrade. That's the goal. Technology advances consistently, constantly. And, what used to work well today, 10 years from now, won't work as well, because 10 years will have passed. And that thing that you got was either in need of upgrading or was replaced by a newer model. This is just the way it goes with technology. And that's what I think is fascinating and why I like technology. I like getting something that works today, but then once I'm done with that today, next year, I'm on to the next thing, at which point I'm wondering, well, what do I do with this old thing? So if there is a value in older electronics, I do try to sell in order to upgrade to newer models, but I tend to not get every product that's released in relation to an electronic. Gadgets just generally don't make great collector's items because they just lose their value so quickly, apart, again, from nostalgia. And, there's certainly a crossover with the collectible and something that might be a gadget. I found this the other day. It's one of those Bluetooth speakers, built-in rechargeable battery. It's a Darth Vader iHome speaker. So I'm not going to take this out of the box or container. I'm not going to do it because it's collectible. This is an electronic, a gadget that will never lose value to me because it means something. I like collecting Darth Vader things. Now, you just give the average Bluetooth speaker, it's worth something today until maybe 5 years down the road, better speakers come along, at which point all those older speakers aren't really worth anything, unless you like collecting wireless speakers. So again, that nostalgia, that personal, emotional connection that you might have. But for the most part, I like my vlog camera. I love what it does for me, but when it breaks, it breaks. I'm no longer interested in it at all. I'll say the same thing about my smartphone. I'll say the same thing about the tablet. I'll say the same thing about these accessories that I have that I unboxed last week. The Anchor accessories. There are things that were designed to lose value. They're there to help you through this point in time, and that's what technology is good for. And when it's done, it gets cast aside, it gets upgraded, other people get the older technology, and hopefully everyone is happy. But technology, generally speaking, makes an absolutely horrible collector's item. Usually, again, I got to put a caveat in there because I know some people do collect technology. No problem with that. Like, I think David DeFranco's like collecting all the old Apple stuff. That's cool. It's a collection, right? So it fits something. You don't just buy things for the sake of buying things, unless you do. I just find that in terms of a value, apart from emotional value, the value of a collectible is something that could and should be deep. Oh, okay. I'm told by one of the people who's now working with us, thanks to the patrons, helping me expand my small team. Liz is saying people are chatting away. Very, very nice. So anyway, I just wanted to be able to explain that because after last year's home office tour, workshop tour, whatever, some people were disappointed. They're like, what is up with all this stuff that's not tech? Well, because the tech wasn't worth anything. I mean, the gadgets were fun to talk about when they were useful. And then 2 generations later, like, why are you still talking about that second generation PSP? I don't know. I don't have an emotional attachment to it. It was just sitting there collecting dust. Why are you talking about that old wired speaker with a crappy connection and a horrible, speaker system? I don't know, because it was sitting there, and I just realized I had no connection with it. I had no emotional connection with it. I don't connect to technology gadgetry that way. I may be an anomaly, and maybe, I'm more than open to someone, basically proving me wrong, but everything I've seen, technology loses value pretty quickly when something else comes along and replaces it apart from that emotional connection. So if you do choose to collect gadgets, it's on you. Make it a good collection. Collect for a reason and collect because you love it. And every time you look at it, you're going to feel happy. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth collecting, personally. Some people collect for value. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. But when you see it, it should bring happiness to you instead of, that's a bad collection. I mean, you know how many drawers and drawers of old tech I had to go through, and it was junky tech. It was crap. USB products that had a certain promise but completely under-delivered and are no longer supported. They're just worthless. Like, I would have to pay someone to take them away. I'm sure some people would take them for free, at which point you kind of wonder, well, what's the value? Someone only wants it for free. Not very valuable at all. So that's what I had to say. Gadgets, I believe, make horrible collector's items, but that does not mean I love them any less. I just accommodated them differently because I'm always interested in getting something now and then moving on to the next thing when the next thing comes out. Do we all not like upgrading? Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I don't know. I do. I like upgrading. Unless you're the type of person, I like using a computer that's 10 years old because that makes me vintage. I don't think anybody's ever bragged about that. Or I'll put it to you another way. Ask anybody if they would want to upgrade something in relation to technology. If they say yes, well, then you know where gadgets stand in their life. And that's usually not in the realm of collecting and value. Personal value. Personal. Collect for personal value. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I have to move on to the live TLDR in a few more minutes. I do stream that live onto YouTube, and as a Christmas present for everybody this week, and reaching down for my Santa cap. Normally, for recent weeks, we've just been publishing TLDR in an audio podcast, but we're going to try something this week, Christmas week, where we're going to be publishing that live TLDR feed for everybody once again. After it's gone live for the patrons, everybody else will be able to tune in and watch and see me interact, this way in the classic Geek Lifestyles channel, which is now classic. Not terribly classic, but where TLDR had gone. And if people like it, if they want it to stay, maybe we'll figure something out. So thank you again for your time and attention. But at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.